Assalamualaikum class. I hope all of you doing well. This is our fifth lecture. In last lecture, we discuss about the environmental management plan, like what is environmental management plan and what is the scope, how it works, and after that we also discuss about the EMS model. Okay. Today our topic is plants and wildlife. Let's see. Plants and wildlife. Start with the definition. The term fauna is related to plants. Fauna is all of the animal life of any particular region or time. The corresponding term of plants is fauna, and other forms of life such as fungi are collectively referred to as a bacteria. Wildlife is a traditionally refers to the undomestic animal species, but has come to include all plants, fungi, and other organisms that grow or live wild in an area without being introduced by humans, like desert, forest, rainforest, grasslands, and other areas, including the most developed urban areas, all have distinct forms of wildlife. Okay, for more forward. Well, humans are historically tend to separate civilization from wildlife in a number of ways, including the legal, social, and moral sense. Some animals, however, have adopted to uh, suburban environment. Suburban areas like those are lower density areas that separate residential and commercial areas from one another. They are either part of a city or urban area or exist as a separate residential community within commuting distance of the society. Well, some religions declare certain animals to be scared, and in modern terms, concern for the natural environment has provoked activities to protest against the exploitation of wildlife for human benefit or entertainment. The global wildlife population has decreased by 52% between 1970 and 2014, according to report by the World Wildlife Fund. Okay, if we move forward, next topic is about food, pets, and traditional medicine. Anthropo- uh, Anthropologists believe that the Stone Age people and hunter-gatherers relied on the wildlife, both plants and animals, for their food. In fact, some species have been hunted to extinction by early hunters. Today, hunting, fishing, and gathering wildlife is still a significant food source in some part of the world. In other areas, hunting and non-commercial fishing are mainly seen as a sports or recreation. Like with the edible meat as a mostly a side benefit of it. Meat sourced from the wildlife is not traditionally regarded as a game is known as a bush meat. The increasing demand for wildlife as a source of traditional food in East Asia is decimating population of sharks, primators, pangolins, and other animals which they believe they have aphrodisiac properties. Okay, if we move forward. Next is religion and tourism, how it is related to wildlife. Religion, like many animal species, have spiritual significance in different culture around the world, and they have their product may be used as a sacred object in religion. populace. For example, eagles, hawks, and their features have a great culture and spiritual value to Native Americans as a religion of like in Hinduism, the cow is regarded as sacred. In tourism, many nations have established their tourism sector around their natural wildlife. South Africa has, for example, many opportunities for tourists to see in the country wildlife. Its national parks such as Kruger Park. We can take the example of Pakistan, like our northern areas. Okay, if we move forward, next is about reasons of uh, reason of extinctions. As we discuss about the extinct, the fact or process of species, family, or other group of animals or plants become extinct. Okay, what are the reasons? Like first one is destruction. Wildlife destruction is the rapid rise in the human population and corresponding demand for resource and had a dramatic impact on natural world. While global warming is certain and hotels the ozone layer effect and the whole planet at other changes such as habitat destruction and hunting threatened individual species. Destruction of wildlife does not always lead to an extinction of species in a question. However, the dramatic loss of entire species across Earth dominates any view of wildlife destruction as extinctions in the level of damage to the wild population from which there is no return. Well, if we see that there are four most general reasons that lead to destruction of wildlife include like overkill, habit destruction, and uh, fragmenta- fragmentation, and impact of induced species and change of extensions. Let's see what is first one is overkill. Overkill happens whenever hunting occurs at rates greater than reproductive capacity of the population is being exploited. The effects of this are often noticed much more dramatically in slow growing populations such as male large species of fish. Like initially when a portion of a wild population is hunted, an increased availability of resources like food, etc. experience increasing growth and reproduction as a density dependent inhibition is lowered. Hunting, fishing, and so on has lowered the competition between members of a population. However, if the hunting continues at the rate greater than the rate of which new members of the population can reach breeding age and produce more young, the population will begin to decrease in numbers. Well, population that are confused to island, whether literally island or just areas of habitat that are effectively an island or for the species concerned have some been observed to be at a greater risk of dramatic population decline following unsustainable hunting. Okay, if we move forward, next is about habitat destruction and fragmentation. It is a like process that describes the emergency of discontinuous fragmentations and losses destruction of the environment inhabited by an organisms. Like in many processes associated with human habitation of an area cause loss of this area and decrease the carrying capacity of the land for the species. In many cases, these changes decrease in carrying capacity of land and lose and inland use. cause of a patchy backup of the wild landscape. Like example of habit destruction include grazing of bushland by farmed animals, changes to natural fire regimes, forest clearing for timber production, and wetland draining for city expansions. Okay, next is about impact of induced species. Well, species introduced into a ecosystem, it may not have any natural predators or control. It can breed and spread quickly, taking over an area. Native wildlife may not have evolved defense against an invader, or they may not be able to compete with a species that has no predators, like cat, rabbits, and position. We are all example of species that have been become invasive, threaten threats threaten to wild species in various parts of the world. Frequently, species that are uncommon in their home range become out of control. The reason for this have not always been clear, and Charles Darwin felt it was unlikely that extinct species would ever ever to be able to grow abundantly in a place in which they had not evolved. The reality is that the vast majority of species exposed to new habitat do not reproduce successfully. Occasionally, however, some population do take hold and after a period of accumulation can increase the number significantly, having destructive effect on many elements of the native environment which they have become part. Okay, if we see the next topic about chain of extension, this final group was one of secondary effect. The extension of one species wild population can have knock-on effect causing further extension. They are also called chains of extension. This is especially common with extension of keystone species, like in which we discuss if we discuss about the example is black dragons and the cattle egrets found in India. These birds feed on insects on the back of cattle, which helps to keep them disease free. Destroying the nesting habitats of these birds would cause a decrease in the cattle population, become a spread of insect-borne disease. This was some. There was a. These are some reasons of extensions. If we move forward, well, next is plants. Plants are one or two groups into which are living there are were traditionally divided. The other is animal. If the division goes back at least so far as Aristotle, which distinction between plants which generally do not move and animals which often are wild to catch their food. Okay, we see that like how plants relate to our structure, growth, and development. Most of the solid material is plant is taken from the atmosphere through a process known as a photosynthesis. Most plants use the energy sunlight to convert carbon dioxide from the atmosphere plus water into simple sugars. Plastic plant, parasitic plant, parasite plants, on the other hand, use of resource of its host to grow. These these sugars are they then used as a building blocks and form the main structural component of the plant. Chlorophyll is a green-colored mechanism containing pigment. It is essential to the process. It is generally present in plant leaves and other too, often in other plants parts as well. Okay, if we move forward, next is their importance. Why plants are important? First one is food and beverage. Much of human nutrition depends on plants, either directly through foods and beverage consumed by people, or indirectly as feed for animals or the flavoring of foods. The science of agriculture deal with the planting, raising, nutrition, and harvest of food crops and has played a key role in the history of world civilization. Human nutrition depends on the large extent on cereals, especially especially maize or corn, wheat, rice, and millet. Large areas of many countries are given over to the uh, cultivation of cereals of local consumption or export to the other countries. Livestock animal including cows, pigs, sheep, goat, and camels are all all herbivores and most feed primarily or entirely on on cereal plants. Cereals are the stage staple crops, meaning that they provide calories in the form of complex carbon dioxide carbohydrates such as starch, and they that are needed to fuel daily activities and thus form the foundation of daily diet. Other staple crops include potatoes, cassava, yams, and plums. Sorry. Okay, if we move forward, next is about non-food products. Plants are the source of many natural products such as essential oil, natural dyes, pigments, bases, rinse, tannins, alkaloids, amber, and cork. Products derived from the plants include soaps, shampoos, perfume, cosmetics, paint, uh, lubricants, plastic, inks, and gums, and so on. Renewable fuels from plastic include firewood, peat, and many other biofuels. Coal and petroleum are fossil fuels derived from the remains of plants. Olive oil has been used in lamps for the centuries to provide illumination. Okay, if we move forward, next is about negative effects as well. Mm, Well, weeds are uncultivated and usually unwanted plants growing in managed environments such as farms, urban areas, gardens, lawns, and parks. People have separate plants beyond their native range, and some of other introduced plants become invasive, damaging existing ecosystem by displaying native species. Invasive plants cause costly damage in crop losses annually by displacing crop plants. They are further increase in the cost of production and the use of chemical to control them, which is turn affect the environment. Plants may cause harm to animals, including people. Plants that produce windblown includes allergic reaction in people who suffer from a fever. Plant may cause harm to animals, including people. Plants that produce windblown pollen. Uh, this is treated. Well, through plants, both illegal and legal drugs derived from plants. It may have negative effect on the economy, affecting worker productivity and law enforcement cost. Some plants cause allergic reaction when ingested, while other plants cause food intolerance that negative effect on health as well. Okay, class, that's it. That was about our total lecture in which we discuss about the plants and in which we discuss about wildlife, their extensions and reasons, and plants, their positive and negative effect. Okay, keep learning class. I request you to kindly to participate. Do your make sure do your part. Make sure do your participation in class discussion room and keep learning through different website and different resource as well. The major concern is your learning is most important. So keep learning, stay safe, stay home, stay safe. See you the next lecture with next topic. Allah Hafiz.